service that we've developed with VT. Not least because a lot of the work done from Dolby's point of view on big connecting with Dolby Voice, the technology was created actually in large part in Australia, in our offices here in Sydney. Dolby employs about 100 people in our Sydney offices, and I'm really pleased to say 85 of those people are researchers and engineers who have been working on this product space for us. They contribute very broadly to Dolby's product range in audio, but a great part of the development for Dolby Voice has been done here locally in Sydney. So I'm really pleased to be able to launch event and show off quite proudly the work that our local team have done. So that being said, let me talk a little bit about why Dolby has entered this market. Hopefully everyone knows who Dolby is. Yes? Great. I mean, where most people experience Dolby for the first time is in the cinema context. Show of hands here, who remembers seeing Star Wars on the air, Empire Strikes Back? Okay, so people at least my vintage in the room. When I was growing up, I grew up in Dubbo, actually, in New South Wales. When I saw Star Wars, that was at the local drive-in, and we didn't have a Dolby surround set up there. We had the little speaker that you put on the inside of the car window. By the time The Empire Strikes Back had come out, we'd actually, the RSL had built a cinema in Dubbo, and it did have a Dolby surround system. And I remember actually, as a kid, sitting in the chair, and as that starship sort of flew over your head in the opening sort of scene, having that surround sound effect of that movie was something I actually genuinely remember as a child and being just blown away by. If we skip forward to more recent times, this is a poster for the movie Gravity, which hopefully some of you saw, which was done in a new Dolby sound format called Dolby Atmos, which is an immersive object-oriented sound system with up to 128 channels of discrete audio. Pleased to say that it's actually in some of the cinema chains here now in Sydney and Melbourne as well, so you can actually hear movies now in Dolby Atmos. And it's this completely immersive experience where you can imagine you're floating in space, and the soundscape is just a huge part of that. Alfonso Cuarón, the director for Gravity, actually said Dolby Atmos allowed him to actually make the movie that he's always dreamed of. And that's how important sound is in terms of an experience. So really what Dolby is about, although you think about it in an entertainment context, we're an experience company. We're a company that wants to move the audience, that wants to involve and engage the audience. And if we think about business communications, we're trying to communicate with each other. There's probably nothing more important than that. So our mission as a company is to take Dolby's science and technology and apply it to markets where we can really engage with an audience. And we saw a great opportunity through partnering with VT to do that in the realm of audio conferencing. I think it's probably fair to say, no disrespect to Carlson, it's a very substantial audio conferencing business. Audio conference is something that people do a lot of, but it's very seldom that it delights people today. Very seldom do you get off an audio conference and go, well, that was just the best experience ever. I can't promise we can do a lot about the content. Dolby tends to work with some of the sort of best script writers in the business. That part's up to you. What we can do is take away the technical barriers which stop you from communicating your message and having their message communicated back to you. And that's really why we see this as such an exciting opportunity. So when we think about, lots of big numbers today as well, I just noticed in these presentations, another big number. What that number represents is the number of devices that Dolby technology is licensed into. When we approach a market, we very much look at the opportunity to work with the entire ecosystem. So if that's in the movie industry, it really starts with working with the content creators, people like Alfonso Cuarón, the director, and really understanding what their vision is, and then really working very closely with them so that when we deliver that experience, whether it's in a cinema, on your home audio system, or increasingly on your mobile device, that we can stay true to the intent of the director or the artistic person who is making that content. And for that reason, Dolby has become this trusted partner across that entertainment ecosystem, and consequently why we're at over 8 billion devices worldwide. We very much took the same approach with the problem of audio conferencing. And really that approach is best summed up by our founder, Ray Dolby, who really had this idea that when it comes to audio, you really want to make sure what goes into the microphone comes out the speakers, and really just want to get rid of all the nonsense in between. between. So when my colleague or our CTO, talks about the challenges of video conferencing, what we really found was a number of the challenges were related to all the things that we took away from the way that we hear in everyday life. And Michael explained that. But really what we set ourselves as a goal is to really try and return audio conferencing as much as possible to the way that we communicate in everyday life. So our goal is very much summed up by what Ray said in that quote. So, as I said, partnership is a really big part of what Dolby does and how we deliver our technologies to a market. So, partnering with someone like BT was absolutely critical. It's not enough just to have the audio part of the solution. It has to be delivered in a way that's scalable, customers can access, and that can be integrated into a complete solution. One of the things that we'll be really happy to show you in the demonstration is that the BT MeetMe with Dolby Voice experience is a tremendous audio experience, but it also gives you new ways of managing the call. The fact that you can see the roster from the conference phone device, that you can interact and manage the call in all the ways that Carlos was talking about, is really part of how we partner with BT to deliver an end-to-end solution. It's not just about audio, it's delivering a completely different experience on how you can use audio to communicate inside your businesses. So, if we really look at what we've done, and as Carl's mentioned, that we're delivering the solution now across mobile devices, PCs, and the conference room as well. When you do the demos, there's a couple of things that I'd like you to look out for. One is wideband audio, or as some people in the industry call it, HD audio. What that's really about is providing more acoustic bandwidth on the call. So if you think about a regular telephone call, it's very narrow band. It doesn't convey a lot of the audio information that you would hear in everyday life. Wideband's great because it makes people sound like they, actually are much closer to that. It's a bit like comparing AM radio to CD. And Dolby Voice is a wideband solution, but we also believe that wideband is necessary but not sufficient when it comes to conferencing. So we've also added some other parts to the solution. One of the things that is very different in our solution is something that we call voice separation. We think about how we hear in everyday life and everyday meetings. We have distracting noises, we have multiple people talking, and we use basically hearing in stereo and our human brains to be able to process those different signals and make sense of that audio world. As Michael explained, regular conferencing systems take all that away from you. The voice separation in Dolby Voice means that you can have much more complex conversations, it's a much more natural sounding meeting, and people can relax into a meeting and have a regular conversation. And one of the very unique aspects of Dolby Voice is this voice separation that you'll hear in the demonstrations. The last part we're focused on is noise reduction, and we have some fairly challenging demo environments for you guys to work in later, where you'll be subjected to jackhammers, some particularly noisy cafes around Wynyard Station, I think, and an actual recording of some George Street traffic noise, I think, Mike. It is George Street, Sydney, right? Yeah, so you'll feel as though you're in the middle of the traffic in George Street with buses and things whizzing by you. And what we're trying to simulate is what the solution actually can do. People do conference calls wherever they are, and we want to be able to support that. And big part of the message about how today Dolby Voice makes your meetings more effective. I did have a particularly ineffective meeting on Dolby Voice, and it was the first time my team had rolled out the noise reduction on the iOS mobile app. I was calling into my staff meeting. I was at Los Angeles Airport, and I was outside the terminal, and there's bus noise and incredible cacophony of sound. And it was a very unproductive meeting because I was actually walking around with my earbuds and my iPhone going, "You can't hear that noise? Really?" And I'd walk over to where the bus was and waiting to go to the Hertz and stand next to it. "Yeah, Andrew, we really can't hear anything. Can we start the meeting?" No, but you can't hear this." And I'd walk over there. And so generally, Dolby Voice makes your meetings really productive. Probably takes you through the first meeting though to really get productive because you want to play with it. It is that astounding in terms of the noise reduction capabilities. And we encourage you to try that out this afternoon. So here is where I'm going to do the big dramatic reveal. And this is something I'm happy to do a dramatic reveal. They really had to coach me very hard to do this. It's an unnatural act. But this is the Dolby Voice conference phone, which we are extremely proud of. The reason being is that this represents an enormously difficult technical problem of how you have remote users actually being engaged in a meeting with people sitting in a physical conference room. Anyone find that to be a challenging environment today? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of noise. Basically, one of two things happen in meetings where you have folks in the meeting room dealing with remote participants. Probably best summed up, though, the idea is if the boss is in the meeting room with you, everyone has a very engaged conversation in the meeting room. You know, lots of work is getting done, important ideas being shared, and the people on the telephone have largely no clue what is going on because all the attention is on the conversation in the room. Sound about right? Yeah. Okay. So the other thing that happens now, let's imagine the boss is the person dialing in to the conference room. Everyone remember this scenario? We're all talking in the box, and you may as well not be in the same meeting room together because you're all now just talking to, you know, a speakerphone sat on the table, or talking up to the dangly microphones hanging from the roof. I was actually in a meeting once where people got on the table and started talking up to the microphones hanging from the roof. It's such a common problem, and we are actually incredibly proud that we think we've done something very revolutionary. And the one thing I'd ask you to remember is it wasn't a matter of just building a better speakerphone with more microphones, more speakers, better digital signal processing. Really what we did in partnership with BT is look at this as an end-to-end problem because it had so many components that we had to go look at. So when you listen to the system today, it's not just about a better speakerphone, it's really about a better conferencing bridge and a better way for remote participants to access the meeting as well. So we're really proud of that and can't wait for you to try it in the demonstrations later today.